Hey Virgo, happy birthday. It's your season, and middle of the month, starting these a little late. I was a little sick and busy. Life's happening, and now for a moment we get to slow down. For a moment, maybe a few, who knows. All information to work with me one-on-one is below. All links for other things can be found there as well. And this season, your reading may be a little different. So normally, people always need you in your season, of course. We know that. Always needed. I don't even know if I did anything when I did that, but I'm trying to get the angle here. All right, so that was a lot of cards. I'll go through them. Quickly. So this shift and change in the planets feels like things are like constantly like being remixed on the DJ table, the scratch, and then all of a sudden there's a pause. And that's how it could have felt up until this moment. Like things are going, because in Gemini season, that's what it's like. But then now you have Mars in Libra, and it's like, okay, it's so intense, and then it stops. So there's a whole mixture here. And what are we talking about? This is your direction in your mind, how that aligns with the direction of your actions, and how you think about that. What do you notice when those things come up? When these things come up, you may want to take more external action at this time. So like, what's interesting is that the conscious side of you may feel like hesitant, and even though the internal part of you is like ready and waiting, but you almost feel like you may feel like, I don't want to tell you how you feel, that there's this, you're waiting on a door to open. You're waiting for an opening here. And that's a big part of every sign's process, is to find their timing. And the only way to find your timing is to trust your timing and pay attention. You've paid attention, I would say, and I think you should give yourself some credit for how much courage it takes to be a little bit more patient with your process, even though you can make heaps, leaps and bounds, even though when you've done that, it's possible that when you've done that, it hasn't seemed to work. So then this Venus retrograde, even more than that, this is like the bravery, the courage, the strength to give yourself patience, not only because what you've done has not worked to your best benefit, but this is about you alchemizing the part of you that can be farther in your mind than your physical body is capable yet ready for, but that's that mental image, that mental view of what and where you're going. It's just that you're at your own pace. Should you be farther? Maybe in your mind, but again, that is in the future, and maybe it's happening in the future, right? So what that's causing is this alchemical reaction in your body. It may feel uncomfortable, and that gives me a segue into, before we even get into this here, sorry, that was my desk, is that you may be experiencing at this time this is a nervous system change. Any habit that you are changing, breaking, is all in the nervous system. And when I say things, you can go look them up. I'm not so privy to explaining the language of science. It doesn't stick with me as well, and I do my best, but it also can stop the flow if I'm not totally, if I don't have the whole lingo down. So you can also look into this, but your nervous system is always going to be a big part of your life and what keeps you healthy. Why? Well, Mercury is related to the nervous system, and then you have Virgo with the digestion. So this patience, that you need to have is allowing you to digest and relax into this new set of yourself, into this new set of nerve endings. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but as a metaphor, just think about it like, your new firings, and then when you break apart old ones, they release. And I do know that is something in neuroscience that I just learned. There's a big thing there's a quote that said a lot is what fires together wires together, and then also we learn what fires apart breaks apart, which is dope. So this is like this is a pattern that makes up a very detailed part of who you are. But it's become so clear to you, it's become so blatantly obvious almost, especially through this. So Venus just went direct and Jupiter just went retrograde, and it feels better. Every time I sat down to do this, there was something, and then all of a sudden, something technologically went off. So I'm glad that I'm doing it today. But there's a part of you that needs to understand how to integrate this timing. And this month shows you, like, if you pay attention to the different situations that this can relate to. Your sense of timing. You may reflect upon what that looks like in your past as well. And how this is integrating is through your willingness to pay attention to what you haven't been able to see before. And I think we talked a little bit last month how it can be difficult, but there's something that I've been reminded of through a character in a show, and then something else recently about Virgo, is that yes, there are extremes to us all. And one of your extremes is that when you finally learn to be a healthy version of selfish, you realize that when you help people, you may be the only sign that has to think about, am I doing this for me or my ego, or am I really wanting to help them? Is this really in benefit of my life right now? Because ultimately, and it comes from being like a people pleaser sometimes, but if that has allowed you to survive up until this point, there's a moment when you're allowed to maneuver. And this month, even though it can feel difficult, there can be some friction. There's some friction. I didn't even realize that was up next. There's various moments where this will be vocal in your life. This may be you talking to yourself, you talking to someone you trust, you talking in conversation about a topic that also really connects with what you're going through. Maybe it's in the terms of job or just relating to people through story, and then you apply it, just like it maybe even hit you in that moment. And I think what you're beginning to realize is not to make it harder for yourself. So the beautiful thing about awareness and coming up against these patterns is that everyone goes through this. Everyone goes through this in their own way, to their own extent, and you are going through this. So why be harder on yourself than you are on anybody else is a question that may not hit you in some moments, but in some moments it will cause you to reevaluate, perhaps. So think about it. And in this moment, the more that you relax into being patient is the whole point. I'm going to keep going back to that. The easier it is to shift and change. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Okay. So that is actually what will give you the power, bring your power back to yourself, other than any external thing, person, situation around you. It will also help clear up any doubt you have against what you maybe deserve in terms of your physical life, that it's okay to clear up some space. There's a lot of things being cleared up through this process of you seeing your process, you being a part of now things that are coming up, so that you can shift and alter those directions, alter the way that you habitually do things in order to create a massive change moving forward in a way that is only going to be beneficial to you. Now, if that brings you doubt, I would focus, this is very specific, but Saturn in Capricorn in retrograde, Pluto, Capricorn retrograde, Saturn's in Pisces, sorry, Saturn Pisces retrograde, I knew I got that wrong, and Capricorn and Pluto retrograde. This calls forward those things. So if there's something going on in your family, if there's someone that is causing you to doubt yourself, notice where that comes from. And for a lot of you, it's a strong male figure, if not your father in your life, or a passed down value in your life, and you see it, but it's never really worked for you. But you, although at this time you may find some value in what it's brought to the people or this person that's come before you, that can be this role that can cause, because they're so strong in who they are so stubborn in who they are even, you have begun to focus on that a little bit more, maybe. And there's, with this change, if you're looking to shift a certain dynamic, a certain perception, and it's not about, it's not like a tactic, it's just maybe there's a relationship that needs some kind of alchemization as well. This that's happening to you is also going to be very helpful in those relationships, because when we do change, there's an energy shift with especially the people that were most intimate around us. So if you're doubting that what you're bringing forward, that this person will accept about you, notice where that's coming from. Maybe take a moment, sit with yourself, see where it's rooted from, and allow yourself to not assume this person's perception of you if you're being open and honest. I know that's for some of you specifically, but there's a lot of power in that when you're able to bring something to the table without assuming the other person's reaction, regardless of what their reactions have been before. And maybe presenting it of like, can you be open with me for a moment? You know, this is not I'm not saying this to be ... If you feel like explaining that, or you can even just open up with like, can we be open for a moment? I have something to say. Notice what happens, the shift in dynamic, even just by prefacing the communication that was about to arise. And that, I think, is only going to bring you closer to the part of you that realizes that this patience is a game changer. That this way of moving about is also helping you see where your ego is really beneficial to ignite and at the same time ground. And then where you can take moments and steps back, because the environment, it's the way that you're able to be, and I don't want to say chameleon in the sense of like, I know that can also be a very negative thing in terms of psychology, but this is more just about you being so adaptable in the environments around you, because you are the earth mutable sign, which makes you a little bit more unique, a little bit more different, just a little bit more than the other earth signs, a little bit more unpredictable even too. And it's not in a bad way. You know, those things can be and look more negative to some people, but if you use them to your advantage, they actually help you become more of who you are. So that mutable earth is who you're now like sculpting yourself into, if you even want to put it that way. There's a strong sense of this part of you that you've been wanting to identify with more. And now life is asking you to use that part of you, to strengthen that part of you, so that it just comes out naturally. You know what I'm saying? And then the shift in dynamic. It doesn't have to be heavy either. That can sound so heavy maybe right now, but the Kazemi, this will be on the day I put it out, actually, or even the day before. I haven't decided if I'll put it out today or tomorrow, but tomorrow is the Mercury. There's a Kazemi, and it's in Virgo with Mercury and the Sun, and it will be the 6th of September. So if there's something, I learned that is a great day for communication. So if there's something that you've been needing to communicate, and set very clear. And that could be from starting with the spiritual world, maybe meditating about it, and then maybe you need to write about it, or maybe you need to talk about it. Then maybe you connect with that a person who is involved with this, or saying, hey, I'm going to be switching things up, just want to let you know. Because like, especially if you live with someone, or if you're in partnership, it's just learning to communicate these small things, to show like, this is how I move, this is how I adapt, this is how I continue to bring in newness into my life right now, especially if you're not someone who can get that externally all the time. Okay? All right. And you'll notice that there will be a deeper sense of control that is able to let go. Be prepared for some auspicious moments, and some things that even get heated up to be, simmered down and neutralized. As long as you allow that for yourself. Again, I know it can be this battle sometimes, but remember that once you find this flow of however you get to understand the connection between your head and your heart, it then becomes this like forward path for you. Okay, Virgo? All right. We'll see you in the next part. We'll get into it right now. We'll look at the cards and shuffle some more. And that will be on the Patreon link below. And I'll see you next month.